Thank you. It's an interesting business that we're in because we have the opportunity to work with each other and to learn from each other. And sometimes when you're new to this kind of enterprise and there's money involved, then not everybody, some people have to go through an adjustment to really get comfortable with that. The fact that there are things that I can do to help you make money, or things that you can do to help me make money, and it becomes like a unit, even though some of us are meeting for the very first time. So if you've been in this business for longer than 6 months, raise your hand. Okay, great. If you're a guest in the room, you're brand new, you're a guest, raise your hand, first time in the room. Okay, fantastic. If you're a guest in the room, I'm going to ask you to open up your mind. I may say some things that you may not fully understand, but you will later. All right? How many of you all had specific goals for your business in the last, let's say 2012? You had specific goals you wanted to accomplish. Raise your hand. Okay, great. If you surpassed, if you went past your goal, you accomplished it, and then you accomplished your goal and more, raise your hand. Okay. If you had to do 2012 over again, and you had to ask yourself, could I do better than what I actually did? Raise your hand, yes, that's true. Okay. Why do you think that is? It's not a trick question. Learn? What else?
We don't do what we're supposed to do.
You don't do what you're supposed to do? Lazy? Let's be honest. Don't believe in ourselves? Afraid of? Fear? Okay. So, I can do this one of two ways. I can do this in a way that's going to be very polite, and I can try not to hurt anybody's feelings. I can be very soft and mushy. Or I can be very direct and speak to you in a way that I speak to any of the groups that I work with respect and honor and love. So you can have the first one or the second one. Which one do you choose?
Second one.
Second.
Which one?
Second.
Okay, good choice.
Which one?
Everybody in this room has the capacity to do what you will with this idea. And it has nothing to do with knowing how to invite someone or having the right setting, whether you're at a travel party or at a coffee shop, whether you know exactly what to say when. Just a few simple words. The will to do it. 5 words. The will to do it. When John F. Kennedy had this idea of advancing the United States, he said, what do we need to go to the moon? And he gathered this big committee together. All of these scientists and physicists and great NASA scholars, and he had his advisory committee with him, and they all got around a round table. And the lead physicist of that day and that era was at the front of the table, directly across from John F. Kennedy. And President Kennedy said, listen, I have all of my top minds here. You tell us exactly what it is that we need to do so that we can be the first people to put a man on the moon. And the physicist said, the will to do it. He closed his book and he left. And President Kennedy said, all right, let's go. So often we get caught up in all of the semantics, the how-tos. How many of you all in this room have done something in your life and you didn't know at the time how you were going to do it, but you had made a commitment to do it? Mm-hmm. And then you look back and you say, how did I do that? Because you committed first and you created second. You commit first, you create second. Don't allow all of the how-tos to trip you up on your way to the success that you are worthy of. Because if you're in this room, guess what? How many people are in Israel? Give me a number. 8 million? There's some other people that are going to see this the way that you see it. Listen, if you get it, you cannot be the only one. Yes or yes?
Yes. Yes.
So what does that mean? It means that at the heart of this matter is getting it in front of people as quickly as you can. Now, I'll tell you something about New York City. It's true. And I've been working on this. Mikhail. Mikhail? Am I pronouncing your name right? Mikhail. 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 I'm working on it. Mikhail. Mikhail. What he spoke about, now I want to pronounce it correctly. What he spoke about in New York, it's true. There were a lot of people that felt it's a difficult market to build. And I had watched other leaders attempt to build that market. Now, I've been building the business of World Ventures for 3 years and 3 months. I made a decision to go full-time into this thing. When I first got started, I was kind of watching and looking at the semantics of it. I got on some conference calls, and because I knew that travel was a cool thing, I just didn't know how I was going to fit into that. I didn't know what my voice was in this vehicle. And at the time that I got started in World Ventures, I was very green heavy. And if you're new in the room, that just means I was very analytical about the process, and I had to figure out what was going to work for me and before I could really get engaged. And once I got engaged, I saw something that for me was going to be very authentic, which was how I was going to communicate this vehicle. And the reason that I wanted to build in New York City was because that's where I had my career when I was in entertainment. If you don't know, I was off-Broadway, did a lot of theater, I did film, I did television for years. And that's how I made my living, as a New York actor, doing nothing else, just working as an actor. And because I did that in New York, I thought, if I'm going to build this, let me do it in New York too, because they say if you can do it in New York, you can do it anywhere. And that always stuck in my head. I wanted to have that story. What's the story that you want to create with this idea? Some of you all are struggling with some things in your home life right now. Some of you all are dealing with some relationship issues right now. Some of you all are spending more time engaging in your self-imposed limitations than you are in your expectant possibilities right now. And that could be your story. The fact that you overcome that. So, people think, well, maybe because he was an actor, he knew a lot of people. No. A lot of my friends that were in the business were actually in Los Angeles. That's really where I started putting people in. They were living in LA, and I would fly to Los Angeles at least every 3 weeks and spend a week here, a week there, and I would do meetings. And Johnny and I would do meetings. You know, I'd do them back to back, and he'd come and close, or he'd start and I'd finish. You know, we just kind of took turns doing that. And that's how I started to get a little group going. When I was in New York, because I didn't have a warm market, all of the people, you know how they say, make a list of people that you know? I made a list of people that I knew. All of my close friends that I grew up with, that I partied with, that I went to clubs with, that I spent a lot of money on dumb stuff with, not one of them said yes. And all that did was piss me off. I was like, all right. I mean, I'm going to make you regret that you even thought about, you know, saying no to me. Now, I didn't go about it the traditional way. I did a lot of things wrong. You know, the flyers? I made a really nice flyer, and I handed it out to people, and I just knew that that was going to